The Inferno is one of the toughest pieces of content in RuneScape. 69 waves of grueling combat, topped off with fighting 3 Jads at once, and a tough last boss, Tz-Kal Zuk. It rewards the Inferno Cape, which provides a +4 strength bonus over the Fire Cape, and also a chance at the Nibbler pet, one of the cooler pets in the game, in my opinion. This guide is going to be directed at people going for their first cape. If you're looking to speedrun Slayer tasks, this guide probably won't be for you. I recommend a Twisted Bow for people going for their first cape, as an ACB makes the Zuk fight incredibly difficult and grueling, typically requiring you to off-tick the ranger and mage spawns and prayer flick them repeatedly. A Twisted Bow is not an unattainable goal. Doing Inferno with an ACB because you don't have the money is typically a sign you're going for it a bit too early, as PVMing for money gives you important experience with bossing that also will help in Inferno. I recommend going for an ACB cape if you've already done Inferno on your main or looking to do it on an Ironman or something like that. Keep in mind, Inferno attempts are not cheap in the slightest. Typically an attempt runs you a mill or two in supplies, mainly in blood runes used to blood barrage things. I often see people ask what skills they're going to need before going in. Do I need to one-tick prayer flick? Do I need to flick at all? Etc. For a first cape, you absolutely need to flick prayers, but one-tick flicking really isn't necessary. You technically could bring way less brews and get through without flicking at all, but this is really going to be just harder than just learning how to flick things properly through the caves, as you should be. One-ticking just speeds up attempts by allowing you to pray Rigor and a Protection Prayer at no prayer cost, which is unnecessary if you aren't worried about the time on the cape. Being able to alternate prayers every 1 ticks or every 2 ticks consistently also solves basically every wave with blobs. You will use this skill a ton, so it is very useful to be able to do consistently. 1 tick alternating solves almost every ranger/major stack behind the pillar. The most useful skills are understanding how to quickly safe spot monsters and understanding how monster pathfinding works. I have a video where I go over this at the top right. Let's get into requirements. The Inferno doesn't mess around, so you shouldn't either. I wouldn't try the Inferno before 99 ranged in hit points. Each range level is 1% DPS, which can easily be the difference between life or death. 94 mage is a pretty hard requirement for Ice Barrage. 99 is better, as the bats do drain your stats, and this will take off your auto cast on your Ice Barrage with lower magic. 96 prayer is the last level that benefits you for prayer gain per prayer dose, and usually for first cape, this is about the lowest I would send an attempt with. Obviously, 99 is best. 90 defense is a good minimum to send Inferno with. Obviously, again, 99 is better. Defense levels are noticeable, so it's best to get the stat up before going in. I got smashed by rangers a lot on my ult when I sent attempts with only 80 defense. It's obviously doable at any defense level, but it is really noticeable how much more damage you take with lower. Agility is also helpful. Being in the 80s would be pretty good for Inferno, but that's not a hard requirement at all. Your other melee stats don't really matter for this. I wouldn't get 99 melees to cheese SGS specs or anything like that. For gear, you have a lot of options. Your priorities in the Inferno are, first is prayer bonus, as your restores need to last through Zuk. The goal is to have at least 4 restores left by the time you get to Zuk. Ranged and melee defense are the next highest priority. Through the majority of the Inferno, you're going to be praying mage to protect against the mages, so mage defense doesn't really help you at all. The final priority is ranged accuracy and damage bonus, as these will help kill things faster. A big mistake I notice people get into is worrying about their magic accuracy because they want to kill those nibblers more quickly, which is a good line of thought. The nibblers actually have 0 defense though, and you will almost always catch a freeze on them no matter your accuracy. Magic accuracy doesn't affect your damage rolls, just whether the hit lands or not. Like, if you hit a 0 with an Ice Barrage, you still landed that freeze, you just rolled a 0. You can easily kill nibblers even with negative mage accuracy. This is not a priority. If you are blood barraging your HP back on monsters, there is no time limit, so you can just take the pieces off that give negative magic bonus and flick the monster as you blood barrage it. How about Justy? Should you be taking that for a first cape? I see arguments going both ways. I personally use Justy for my first cape, and I don't regret that in the slightest. If you plan on grinding the pet in the future and doing every task in the Inferno you can, or something like that, I really recommend not taking Justy and just properly learning the caves, as that will lay out a great foundation for your tasks in the future. The purpose of Justiciar is not to constantly wear it like you would think. It is to allow you to escape sticky situations by slapping it on and running south while praying magic. You should never try brute forcing with Justy just tanking everything. That actually turns the waves into an RNG fest, and you'll get through the Inferno much faster just learning it the intentional way. You will 100% get the cape faster using Justy as a tool like I suggested, as you will get through the waves more consistently. If your goal is just to get that stupid Inferno cape and be done with it, I would recommend using Justy. Here's the setup I would use for my first cape. Justy Face Guard provides a massive 67 range defense and melee defenses in the 60s, while only hindering your ranged accuracy by 2. It also provides 2 prayer bonus, which does also come in handy. For ring slot, I typically bring a Ring of the Gods. Its massive +8 prayer bonus and Holy Wrench effect cannot be understated. If you're using a max cape, you already have that wrench effect, so it's usually best to bring something like a Ring of Suffering for its range defense and really high prayer bonus. I would not use a Granite Ring or Archer's Ring, as these stats don't matter a lot compared to the prayer bonus. Armadillo Armor has slightly better ranged and melee defenses than God D'hide, while also providing slightly better ranged accuracy. The cape is very doable without Armadillo, but definitely bring it if you can afford it. Blessed D'hide is perfectly acceptable. For cape slot, off task, the assembler does not provide a max hit on your pipe or your twisted bow, so the ranged cape is a better option for its 4 prayer bonus and defensive bonuses. Make sure you add a Vorkath head onto it so as not to waste ammunition. A max cape is a superior option if you have it. It has the same stats as a ranged cape, collects ammunition, counts as a Holy Wrench, and it also has negative weight because it counts as a graceful cape, while also doubling health regeneration. Obviously by no means is that necessary, but it is helpful if you have it. For boot slot, you have a lot of options. My preference is Devout Boots for their +5 prayer bonus and lack of negatives. Pegasian Boots are also a really good option if you are getting through the waves with enough prayer, as they will speed up the TzTok-Jad and Zuk fight. Less time fighting these is less chance of dying. And they provide a small amount of defense. Guardian Boots are also actually a pretty decent option. They provide very decent defensive bonuses in the 30s, and they also provide +2 prayer bonus. The -1 ranged accuracy is kind of painful, but it's not the worst. If you're getting KO'd in the waves, these might be a decent option to switch to. Crystal Shield is the perfect option for its insane 80 range defense, and it's my go-to for the Inferno. If you have an Elysian Spirit Shield, that is the obvious choice instead, but again, obviously no means necessary. An Arcane is also a decent choice, as it still has a decent 52 range defense, as well as providing 3 prayer bonus and slightly reducing that splash chance on the nibblers. For ammunition, make sure you are using Dragon Arrows for your T-bow. I elected to use Rune Darts in my pipe until I made it to Zuk for the first time. Then I started using Dragon Darts as I knew I was very close. You can choose to use Dragon Darts just all the time if you want. I wouldn't use any less than Rune Darts, as you're wasting tons of money on Blood Barrage anyway, and you might as well use the better darts to get as far as you can. For gear switches, you want either a 3 or 4-way mage switch. Kodai is basically mandatory, as if you're using something like a Nightmare Staff, you have to keep a brew behind to bring water runes. Occult is great for higher chance of insta-killing nibblers. Ancestral Top is optional. It slightly increases the chance of killing nibblers, but has no range defense when you're wearing it. If you choose to bring it, it's only going to be used for the early waves, like 1 through 47, as you will be casting an Armadillo from then on for its defense. I would skip this if you were bringing Justy, because it's just too many supplies wasted on switches. For inventory, this is what I like to bring for a first cape. Your 3 or 4-way mage switch, as well as a blowpipe. 8 brews is usually a good starting amount. Your goal is to get to Zuk with at least 4 brews. So if you find you're getting through the waves with 6 or more brews, you maybe want to ditch some of those brews for restores. Find a good balance as you are sending attempts and see where your skills are and where you're struggling. A Falador Shield 4 is really great if you have it. It fully restores prayer twice a day, meaning you get extra prayer over a restore daily. It is kind of annoying to use in the waves, so try to use it early on in your attempts if bringing it. It also has cheese potential because it does reset. If you wait until the day reset, and then you can use it again and again and again, I wouldn't really do that, but it is an option if you need to use it. You need at least a Stamina and Bastion Potion for Zuk. You can bring a second Bastion Potion for Zuk if you find you can't stay potted constantly after you get a Zuk attempt or 2. Bring a rune pouch filled with the maximum soul, death, and blood runes it can hold. You can easily use as much as 4,000 blood runes in a long run. Finally, the rest of your inventory can be filled with restores. Switch 2 restores for Justy pieces if you're bringing that. It's not a bad idea to bring an SGS instead of a 3rd restore if you're bringing Justy, because it is melee armor. It can allow you to restore more prayer than a restore would. And having the ability to drive by nibblers with a melee weapon while you run south and are likely brewed down can also be very beneficial. Never bring an SGS with the intention of cheesing specs. It is a complete waste of time. You can optionally start bringing this only after you've made it to Zuk to conserve supplies, as you will get through the waves faster and therefore learn faster without it just using your supplies instead of cheesing. Before entering, you will want to drink a Divine Ranging / Bastion, heal your HP back to full, eat an Angler, and drink a Stamina, and hit an Imbued Heart if you have one. You can also optionally Ancient Mace a dummy in your house with max melee gear in order to overcharge your prayer points before you do the pre-pot process. Let's go over how the Inferno works in general. The Inferno has 69 waves. This is higher than the Infight Caves because there's an in-between wave with 6 nibblers before each new monster is introduced. That's before the first blob, first melee, first ranger, and first mage. As well as an extra 2 waves after Jad, which include triple Jads and Zuk. The way the waves work is the exact same as the Fight Caves. A bat is added every wave, with 2 monsters combining into the next harder monster each wave. Which spawn points monsters spawn at is completely random, unlike the Fight Caves. There are 3 pillars you can use as safe spots: North Pillar, West Pillar, and South Pillar. You start waves behind or near North Pillar, and can optionally rotate to South Pillar when things get sticky. West Pillar really rarely gets used in the Inferno except for maybe the earlier waves. It's more of a chew toy for the nibblers than anything else. Before getting into anything nitty gritty, let's discuss how each monster works inside the Inferno. Every single monster is a souped up version of the Fight Caves variant. Keep in mind every monster inside the Inferno is capable of meleeing you if you enter its melee range. The mages in particular have devastating melee attacks, so make sure you avoid their melee range. Nibblers spawn every single wave in groups of 3, except for the in-between waves where there are 6 of them and no other monsters. These stop spawning on the final 3 waves. 3 nibblers spawn each wave that can randomly head towards any of the pillars. All nibblers will go to the same pillar. Each nibbler maxes a 4 and rapidly damages the pillars when they reach them. On a first cape, these are the absolute top priority to kill, as losing North or South pillar can spell the end of a run. They have negative magic defense and extremely low stats. These are the absolute best target for SGS specs, and they're a great target for Blood Barrage if you still need health. First are bats, Jal Medra. These spawn from the very first wave. These are extremely annoying. They actually max on 19 with ranged attacks, which can actually be devastating if you have to tank 2 of them at once and get unlucky. These have a very short range of 4 tiles, whereas your blowpipe has a max range of 5, meaning you can pipe these safely from the max range even on rapid. These are the only monster in the Inferno with a short range besides nibblers. Instead of draining your prayer, every attack sustained by these, including zeros, drain your run energy by 3. They also have a chance to drain your combat stats by 1, which they also add to their own stats. This can be devastating if you are drained below 94 magic, as this will instantly remove your autocast and can cause you to run out and get killed if you aren't aware of that. There's actually a poll that just passed, which changes bats so they can no longer drain your stats if you are praying ranged correctly against him, but they will still drain your energy each attack. Next is blobs, Jala Axe. These are going to be the bane of your existence on a first cape. They appear after wave 4. They are capable of attacking with mage or range from a very long distance, maxing a 29. They are on a 6-tick attack cycle. They read what you are currently praying, either mage or ranged, on the 3rd tick of their attack. They then fire the opposite of what you were praying on the 6th tick. If you were praying nothing or protect melee on that 3rd tick when they read you, they will fire a random attack on the 6th tick, either mage or ranged. If you come out of a safe spot at them and they instantly see you, they will read your prayer the absolute first tick they see you. Then they will fire 3 ticks later. I highly recommend entering the Inferno with nothing but blowpipe, killing the waves up to the first blob, and then just practice prayer flicking these. You can alternate between mage or ranged prayer every single tick to completely negate these, as well as alternating prayer every 2 ticks to have the exact same effect. When killed, blobs split into 3 smaller blobs, a red melee, green ranged, and blue mage blob. Do not underestimate these tiny blobs. They max an 18, and I actually have been KO'd by them before. They must be immediately killed or safe spotted. They realistically cannot be tanked. The best way to deal with them is just immediately get your mage gear on after you kill a blob and quickly send an ice or blood barrage. They only have 15 HP. Mini blobs are one of the best targets for regaining health with blood barrage due to phantom heals working on all 3 in a lot of cases. But they have a fair melee defense, so SGS specs may be better spent on rangers or nibblers. Melees, Jal I'm Kots, spawn next after wave 9. This is flipped from Fight Caves as the 3rd spawning monster instead of rangers. These are devastating with a max of 49 and are extremely accurate. You cannot realistically tank these. They can easily be safe spotted, corner trapped, or frozen to avoid them entirely, or just pray melee. They have a unique mechanic in which if they have not attacked you for 20 seconds, they will dig to your current location. There is a short window before they can attack you after they dig. The timer can be reset at any time by praying melee and allowing them to hit you once, or taking an off-prayer hit. On their own, these are typically not very threatening, but when combined with more dangerous monsters, they can very easily get you killed. If you're stuck fighting these with a blob or two, that is an absolute nightmare. Rangers, or Jalzils, these start spawning on wave 18. These max out 46 and are very deadly. These have no unique mechanics, and they just attack using ranged or melee attacks every 4 ticks. You will start the waves up until the majors spawn, praying ranged. These are the first enemy you will be primarily flicking. Their attack is calculated as soon as the animation for their attack starts. As soon as you see them start to crouch down, you are taking the hit if you weren't praying. Keep in mind, Rangers have one of the lowest magic levels of any Inferno monster, and they actually have a big pile of health, making them free medkits to blood barrage your health back. They are a decently squishy target for SGS specs as well. Rangers counterintuitively have the lowest defense of any monster in the Inferno besides bats and nibblers. Rangers have 60 defense, bats have 55, and nibblers have 15. Mini blobs are actually a fairly poor target for SGS specs because all of them have 95 defense, just like the mother blob. Mages, Jalzaks. These are one of the most dangerous standard monster in the Inferno. These max a 70 with magic, and they appear on wave 35 and on. You'd be starting any wave with one of these praying mage. When flicking these, their attack is calculated as soon as the light underneath them flickers, similar to the ranger. These have a unique mechanic in which instead of a regular attack, they can respawn any monster you have killed, except for nibblers with half health in the center of the room. This takes them 8 ticks to do instead of their standard 4-tick attack. The respawn monster will be at half HP and can only be respawned 1 time. If the mage respawns a blob, the blob itself will be half HP, but the blobs it splits into will still be full health. The mage respawning things can be used as a tool to regain health with blood barrage, so you want to keep that in mind. What should your priorities be inside the Inferno? When starting a wave, you will always send either an ice or blood barrage at the nibblers, depending on your health. Your top priority is to get these dead and protect your pillars. If that means tanking some damage to get these dead, go for it. You can always blood barrage your health back. If your health is within max hit range of things hitting you, then you need to back off and deal with that. The importance of pillars is top priority north, next priority south, and lowest priority west. The more aggressive you are with nibblers early on, the more you can ignore them later, as you solve the much more difficult waves. If you cannot safely kill the nibblers because your health is low or something, you can send 1 cast, and then immediately get behind the pillar until monsters fall into place. You get your bearings straight in order to run out and kill nibblers. Second priority after nibblers is negating damage while dealing with monsters. If you cannot safely negate 100% of the damage being taken, you can only realistically tank bats, and even then bats can kill you if you don't deal with them. You need to relocate to a place that allows you to do this successfully. There's always a solve for any given spawn. Sometimes everything perfectly falls behind the pillar, and sometimes you're going to need to flick multiple monsters at once. You need to instinctually understand what the most dangerous spawns are and quickly make a decision to get safe. Mages, rangers, melees, and blobs are all very dangerous. If you're taking Justy, if at any point you feel you are in danger and you cannot flick multiple monsters, slap on that Justy and run south while chugging brew. Don't forget both Rigor and Augury also provide defense, so they are great in this circumstance to leave on as you run. The final priority once you have solved the wave, which means you have a means to safely dispatch every single monster left, is to get 99 health before the next wave. You can blood barrage /SDS spec /blowpipe spec any monster. So making sure you can get full health off the remaining monsters is extremely important. You can get KO'd extremely quickly, so having maximum health on tough waves is a must. There are some other small things with the Inferno. If you click the logout button during a wave, it will pause the wave after you have killed everything. This creates a special state where you cannot recover run energy, but special attack will still recover. If you have a horrible pillar stack, you can also choose to hit logout twice. This will log you out, and when you log back in, it will restart you at the beginning of the wave. Monsters will respawn in the exact same location. This is a great tool you can use. I recommend pausing the wave before single Jad, triple Jad, and Zuk to get prepared. Because the Inferno is instanced, you can drop potions and they will not despawn for 30 minutes. I like to drop a couple brews to allow me to unequip my items that give negative mage accuracy in the early waves. Make sure if you are logging out that you pick up any potions you left on the ground, as they will not be there when you log back in. There's a lot of Runelite Setup you can do beforehand that will help tremendously. The most important thing is tagging all the monsters and NPC indicators. The easiest way to do this is just type Jal with a star after it. This tells Runelite to tag anything in the game that starts with Jal. Make sure you show tiles on the monsters. This will allow you to see how they are stacking up behind the pillar like Tetris pieces. Another useful external plugin is Fight Cave's Waves. This pulls up an info box that shows what monsters will appear in the next wave. Make sure you change this to show the common monster names, as that can get very confusing if you don't. Using the GPU plugin to show the entire arena is also very important. Not being able to see monsters in the distance is a pretty big detriment. There are also a lot of tiles you can mark ahead of time. I wouldn't go crazy with this, as this can get pretty confusing and get you killed. Just what you need as a marker. I like to mark a tile for where the nibblers spawn, so I can hover my mouse over their rough spawn point. I mark a spot 3 tiles behind the pillar. This is where I like to start the later waves, and also conveniently is the tile you can corner trap melees with. This tile is also useful. You can blood barrage nibblers that are attacking north pillar, while still standing behind north pillar here. I mark the tile I use for the start of triple Jads for luring the healers from Jad properly, and I also mark 4 tiles for Zuk. My tile markers will be in the description. Just copy the code to your clipboard and right-click the world map and hit import when you are inside the Inferno to just copy them all. In general, you want to play around north pillar as much as possible. I've noticed a lot of people learning will panic and run west or south. This is usually a bad instinct. Running north of north pillar should be the first thing you do in a wave. If you can't then figure out a way to solve the wave quickly from there, then you can rotate south or west. It is always possible to solve the wave from north pillar. It just may also involve flicking some monsters. If you instinctually go to the northeast corner of north pillar after casting at the nibblers, you could also corner trap whatever is dangerous east of the pillar. I like to start each wave west of pillar before things start to get dangerous, then move to this tile north of north pillar for the more dangerous waves, as this is more likely to protect you from the ranger's attacks. I go over how monster mechanics work in my movement video, but I'll briefly go over it here because they are so important. Monsters work off their southwestern tile. That tile is the only part of the monster that tries to reach you or even sees you. If a monster's southwestern tile can see you, but the rest of them is stuck behind something, this safe spots them. Any monster can also be corner trapped. Monsters always try to move west or east before moving north or south. You can use pillars to corner trap monsters in this way, as the monsters will try to move west or east through the pillar, which keeps them stuck in place. This is why we primarily use the north pillar. Most things spawn south of the pillar, and you can abuse the corner trapping mechanic on both the east and west side of the pillar from either south or north of it. There's also a mechanic called Phantom Heal, in which if you are at least 8 tiles away when you send a blood barrage, which has a range of 10 tiles, same as T-Bow, if your cast you just sent is going to kill the target, you can send another barrage right before they die, giving you the healing for both casts. You can abuse this liberally to keep your health high. Keep in mind this only works if manually casting the spell. Autocast will never grant you a Phantom Heal. The first truly dangerous wave is 48. Until then, your goal is to maintain your prayer and pillar health as much as possible. You realistically shouldn't have used any brew until at least wave 48. Obviously, it's fine if you did use brews while learning, that's just a soft goal. Keep in mind you shouldn't touch Justy armor if you have it until the waves with mages, as you will likely be praying ranged anyway against the rangers, making it worse than Armadillo in that case due to Justiciar's negative mage defense. On first attempts, it's a good idea to use up your brews and restores as much as possible to confirm you get later into the waves to learn them. I'll go over some things I use almost every wave now that you can abuse. First is the bat safe spot. This is 1 tile away from the corner of the pillar. This tile allows you to shoot the bats even on rapid with a blowpipe, and they won't even be able to attack you. Try to avoid tanking bats wherever possible, as them draining your run energy can cause problems. This tile is also great for killing the majority of the blobs, as after you kill them, the blobs will spawn in this triangular pattern, and only the ranger mini blob will be able to attack you. This sets up a phantom barrage spot you can abuse by standing right next to the lava and manually sending blood barrages at the ranged or melee blob. Blood barrage gives you HP for damage you would have hit even if a monster has low HP, so even though these blobs only have 15 HP, you can get massive amounts of healing from them. Sending a phantom barrage after killing all 3 of them can heal you for as much as 40 health. I didn't know this when going for my first cape, and I use this all the time now. It's extremely helpful. This also works when a blob is west of North Pillar. If you run far enough east when sending casts, it will still be only the ranger that can see you. For the waves before the mages, you can start waves without your crystal shield on to increase your chance of landing barrages, as you really don't need it at first. When you get into the waves with melees, you can't realistically flick a melee and a blob. It is technically possible, but it's very hard. You need to get the melee safe spotted away from the blobs so you can kill them without tanking blobs or melees. You can corner trap them on any corner of north or south of north pillar. If they are north of pillar, they will be trapped if you go to west of north pillar. If they are south of north pillar, you can trap them behind the pillar like you would a bat or blob. And they can also be trapped east of north pillar on the south side. Make sure you commit this info to your instincts, as you need to rapidly safe spot them on the later waves in order to survive these in many cases. The first time you get to a melee in the waves, I would keep it alive and just kind of mess with it to see exactly how it can be safe spotted. It's really going to matter later. Keep in mind any wave with double blobs is dangerous. Missing 2 sets of flicks on 2 blobs means you chance a KO. When you get into the waves with rangers, start each wave with protect from ranged. If you have a case where a blob can see you and a ranger is away from a safe spot, remember you can 1-tick or 2-tick alternate between ranged and mage pair to avoid all damage. Pray ranged until you see the ranger's animation start, and then just start alternating to avoid damage. It doesn't matter when you start alternating for the blob cycle. It might hit you one more time if you start in an unfortunate tick, but after this it will never hit you again if you just keep 1-tick alternating properly. Melees being thrown into the lot doesn't change much at this point. Safe spot them the same way, and pick off the melees before they dig. Wave 32 is when the first mage spawns. This is when it really starts to get fun. When you're dealing with a mage and a blob, you can deal with them the same as a ranger blob. Pray magic until you see the light flicker underneath the mage, then 1-tick alternate ranged and mage pray as you kill it. If you are full health, it is usually best to kill the mage first to prevent the respawn. But if you need health, it can be good to kill the blob, then blob barrage it, and get the mage to respawn it again for even more HP. Melees don't change these waves too much either. You just need to isolate it away from the mage, and either kill it or the mage. Make sure you always have a plan for what to do if the melee digs. Know where you can go to get safe if it digs with either a corner trap or a safe spot or something like that. If you're not seeing a way to get safe after it digs, throw a rigger on to hopefully kill that mage fast enough before that thing digs. The reason I called wave 48 the first difficult wave is because it has a mage, melee, and 2 blobs. This means you need to both isolate that melee from the mage and the blobs. And you are under a strict time limit as it can dig to your position. Now typically you cannot kill a mage with your T-bow before the melee digs. If you have a very bad spawn at this point, this is when the Justiciar armor can come into play. If you need to rotate south, pray rigger, slap on the Justy armor, and chug bruise as you run south. Make sure you don't go near the mage's melee distance if you have to do this. Try to safe spot the melee with either a corner trap or a safe spot and kill it as fast as possible before moving on to the mage. There really should be no reason you need to run south on this wave, as you can safe spot the melee in many different ways, and you can also very easily flick 2 blobs in a mage. Just make sure you're thinking carefully about your strategy. Wave 49 is when things start getting truly difficult and introduces a ranger into the equation. From now on, don't put Ancestral on at the beginning of waves. Just stay in Armadillo with Occult, Kodai, and your shield. It's a good idea to start the wave praying Augury at this point too, to not only decrease your splash chance, but also reduce the potential damage taken from the ranger and the blobs. There's a very good possibility a ranger will instantly hit you for as much as a 46. So it's extremely important to keep your health at 99 when you start these waves. Start the waves from this tile to decrease the chance the ranger hits you immediately. You need to rapidly isolate the ranger and major. If they are both on you on the same tick, it is very likely you're going to die. Look at where they spawn and look for an immediate way to get a pillar between you and either the mage or ranger, or off tick and flick them if you feel confident doing that. I'll quickly go over some pillar stacks that you are guaranteed to run into during attempts. What do you do when you have a mage and ranger on top of each other behind the pillar? It's actually really simple. Just start in the middle of the pillar and either click the monster in the back or manually step out to the corner. If you don't start from the middle, they're both going to hit you same tick, and that's going to not feel good, so don't do that. The monster in the back will see you on the first tick you step out, and the closer monster will take another tick to see you. Step out. As soon as you see the monster in the back start an attack, switch your prayer to the monster in the front. If you want to attack a mage that's in the front, you will need to manually step out. If you are uncomfortable with that, you can always just click whatever monster is in the back. If there is a bat in the front, you need to start 1 tile away from the pillar in the center again. If there is a blob in the front, you will need to start 2 tiles away from the pillar in the center. If there's a blob anywhere in the stack other than the front, it's the exact same as any of the other solves. Just pray against the monster in the back, then against the monster in the front, and alternate. Conveniently, the blobs will never damage you while doing this. If you realize your timing is off, immediately get back behind pillar and drink some brew. You can survive a messed up pillar stack by tick-eating the incoming dangerous projectiles, but you have to be fast. I won't be going over every pillar stack. We Do Raids has a great Inferno guide by Hayo that has almost every pillar stack you can think of. If you get stuck, you can always check for a solution there, even during the Inferno. Wave 56 is one of the most dangerous waves, with a mage, ranger, and 2 blobs. Keep in mind with no melee on the board, all you need to do is isolate the mage or ranger away from each other. You can 1-tick alternate even with 2 blobs attacking you while you deal with either the ranger or major. Keep in mind you can't just 1-tick alternate if both ranger and major are on you, 2 ticks apart. You'll need to 2-tick alternate to flick them both along with blobs. Every wave after this can potentially kill you with a bad spawn. If you brought Justice here, I would consider starting the waves wearing it from now on. Your splash chance is decently high, but hopefully you kept your pillar health high enough to allow for you to wear some tank armor. At this point, each wave has a major, ranger, and melee. All 3 of these need to be isolated, and you are under a time limit with the melee's digging. Typically your priorities are to kill melee, then mage, then ranger. If at any point you need to recover health, keep in mind you can have the mage respawn things to your advantage. West Pillar is basically completely irrelevant at this point. You shouldn't ever go there at this point, and it is totally fine if it goes down. Feel free to get the wave solved first, and then go and kill them. Wave 63 is considered the most difficult wave of the Inferno. Once past this, you will likely at least get to Jads. This is what I call the works: a mage, ranger, melee, and 2 blobs. Never start this wave without at least 99 HP, and be prepared to rotate south, as the chances of a bad spawn in this wave are really high. Isolate all 3 of the main monsters, and remember you can alternate any amount of blobs attacking you and a mage or a ranger. Kill that melee, and if you can't figure out a plan to go somewhere to safe spot it after it digs, rotate south. Even South Pillar's health shouldn't matter at this point. Wave 64 is still very dangerous, mage, ranger, and double melee, but it's a lot safer than the double blobs. Remember all of your tricks for safe spotting melees, isolate the mage and ranger, and solve the wave. If you can't do this, again, rotate south with Justy. Wave 65 is double ranger and mage. It's easy to solve, but has the potential for a wombo combo ranger spawn, where both can instantly see you, dropping your health dramatically instantly. Get away from the mage and pray range to stay safe on this wave. Wave 66 is free, it's just double mages. Just pray mage and you're perfectly fine. You can start the wave just with your T-bow on. Nibblers can just kill whatever pillar they go to. Do not stand next to a pillar when it goes down, or you will take massive damage. You can optionally blood barrage the nibblers for health if you need it. The mages can respawn each other, potentially requiring you to kill 4 mages this wave. Try to get them both to really low health, and rapidly kill them both at the same time. If a mage's southwest tile is next to a pillar when it drops, the mage will take massive damage. I've seen it hit them for over 100. Make sure to pause this wave as Jad is coming up next. As soon as you kill the last mage, all the pillars will instantly go down, so make sure you're not standing next to one when you finish the wave, or you're going to feel some pain. Jad spawns in the northwest corner of the Inferno. The Jads in the Inferno are a bit more difficult than in the fight caves. They can max a 113, have more health, and their healers are a lot more dangerous with a max of 18. I wouldn't pray Rigor during this wave unless you have around 6 restores. If you have less than 4 restores, you should try to flick Jad as much as possible. As soon as a projectile is on screen, the damage for the Jad's attack is calculated, and you can safely turn the prayer off. I like to stand west of where Jad spawns when attacking him. The healers never spawn east of Jad, so this allows you to tag them all fairly easily. 5 healers will spawn when Jad reaches half HP and walk towards him. My preferred method is to try to blood barrage clumps of them manually with your bow on to tag multiple. You can also just stand close to Jad and pipe all 5 without any problems. If you are uncomfortable with Jad, I would just tag them with your T-bow. After all 5 are on you, I like to enter melee range of Jad, praying melee of course. If you run up and down in front of Jad, the healers will stack up nicely. Once you have them stacked up, wait for his next attack to protect against it, and then run through Jad. Hopefully all the healers will be stuck behind Jad, and you can blood barrage them to get your HP back to 99 before triples. If a healer or 2 walk around Jad, I usually just kill Jad at this point, praying melee when he is not attacking. You can stay in his melee range if this happens as well, to allow you to keep protect from melee on longer. In this case, I decided to do a second run because 2 healers followed me, and I did a run from north to south, which also works. You can also blood barrage the healers until you are 99 HP. Make sure you pause this wave at some point, as triples are coming up next. Triple Jads are actually a lot easier than people make them out to be, they're just really intimidating. Before starting triples, you can overbrew if you have a spare brew, and restore your stats, optionally also drinking a Bastion. When starting the wave, pray Rigger and attack the Southern Jad. Do 1 action per attack protected against, exact same as normal Jad. The Jads on this wave are 9 tick instead of the usual 8 tick for a Jad, giving you 3 ticks in between each attack, cleanly. Nearly 2 full seconds. You should just have the same philosophy with triples as with a single Jad. You only do 1 action per protected attack, and you'll be perfectly fine. Start on this tile, 1 tile away from Jad, in line with the Southern Jad's southwestern tile. This is on purpose in order to potentially get the healers stuck on each other to avoid taking damage. The Jads on this wave also only have 3 healers, which really simplifies things. When healers come out, just tag these with bow shots. You don't have to do anything fancy. If a healer is behind you, it doesn't have to get tagged. It won't heal Jad as it can't reach him. If the healers are walking towards you from around Jad after tagging them, you can attack Jad until they fall in line attacking you right in front of Jad. If a healer is then behind you, you can walk backwards 2 tiles and they'll get stuck on each other. This will prevent a lot of damage while fighting the first Jad. If you don't have a healer behind you, you may just have to tank a healer or 2, which is perfectly fine. After you kill the first Jad, move on to either Jad you want and attack until the healers come out. You can do the same healer trap trick if you stand southwest of the northwestern Jad. Actually, I had kind of a cool barrage tag here with the second Jad, where all 3 healers were surrounding Jad's southwest tile, and I could easily tag all 3 with just 1 barrage at Jad. Kill this Jad the exact same way. When moving on to the final Jad, make sure you pause the wave as Zuk is coming next. You should likely turn Rigger off at this point, unless you have a ton of restores. Stand west of this Jad and tag the healers the same way as single Jad. When healers come out, tag all 3, and lure them and run through the same way with single Jad. This allows you to get 99 HP before Zuk. After killing this Jad, make sure you don't run around as you don't recover that run energy after a wave pauses, and you're gonna need it for Zuk. Zuk, I would argue, is the hardest part of the Inferno. Nerves are likely hitting you at this point, and he's kind of strange in a lot of ways. He doesn't have particularly difficult mechanics, but making a mistake likely will get you instantly killed. You will have to stay behind a moving wall at all times while fighting Zuk. If he catches you with an attack while outside the wall, his max hit is 251, and you cannot take it as attack. Definitely avoid this at all costs. That's actually the highest damage of any NPC in the entire game. These 4 tiles are safe spots from Zuk's attacks. As soon as Zuk juts his leg forward, his attack is calculated and is set to either hit you or the wall. As soon as his leg moves, you are safe to move up to the next safe spot. Always try to stay ahead of the wall, as it is actually further than it looks on your screen. The same way players are with their true tile, it has the same idea. Lagging behind is a great way to take Zuk hits. Zuk runs off a timer. When you start the fight, the wall will move in either direction. Which way it goes is completely random. After the wall bounces 3 times, as soon as it hits the wall on the 3rd side, the first set of rangers and mages will spawn. These will begin attacking the wall immediately. As soon as this set spawns, a 3.5 minute timer kicks in. After this timer is up, another set will spawn. You typically get 2 sets with a T-bow, but you have the potential to get more or less spawns. When Zuk is damaged to 600 health, he has 1200 total, the timer is then paused, and 1 minute and 45 seconds are added to your clock. When Zuk is then damaged to 480 health remaining, he'll spawn a Jad behind you, and the timer will resume. I recommend getting a friend to time you for the first cape through Discord. If you don't have friends, I get it, I was a solo player until I made this channel. There's a great external plugin that lets you do this yourself called Set Timers. It puts a sidebar up like the Zulrah helper with a big start button. You hit start when the first set spawns, pause it at 600 health on Zuk, and start again when he's at 480 health. The timer just does the rest for you, you just let it run. When Zuk is damaged to 240 health remaining, he will both become enraged and spawn healers. From this point on, the safe spots are completely irrelevant. You must stay with the wall at all times, as he will attack you much more quickly. The healers are easily the most dangerous part of the fight. They rapidly heal Zuk until they are tagged like a Jad healer, and then they turn around and start hucking fireballs all over the place that deal 5 to 10 damage each. These will rapidly damage you, so the healers need to be killed ASAP. 2 of them on you at once can stack you out for as much as a 50. This is why we want 4 brews for Zuk. After killing healers, you just need to stay with the wall and kill Zuk, healing with any sets that spawn after this. There are some dead zones which your character cannot shoot Zuk from. These are the 3 tiles in between the right and left safe spot. If you click Zuk from these spots, your character will run to the inner safe spot before shooting. Make sure you do not do this on accident, as you will likely take a Zuk hit. Before you start the fight, like with triples, overbrew if you have a spare brew, restore your stats with a restore, and sip a Bastion. You can also sip a stamina. If you have 4 resource or more, leave Rigor on and do not take it off. Zuk is a DPS fight and requires you deal as much damage as possible. When you log back in to start the wave, turn Rigor on immediately. A cutscene will start and it will spawn you 3 tiles away from the center of the shield. If you time it properly, you can get 2 shots off before the shield reaches either wall, and Zuk sends his first attack. Follow the wall, moving to the next safe spot whenever he fires. After the shield hits the 3rd wall, the sets will spawn. I do not like off-ticking sets, and don't usually recommend it on a first cape. It's very unnecessary when you have a T-bow and good supplies. The best wall for a first cape is probably the left side wall, spawning the ranger right in front of you. If you get this spawn pre-ranged and Rigor, you shouldn't have taken Rigor off in the first place. Dump blowpipe specs, not for the health but for the damage you desperately need, and DPS the crap out of the ranger. The goal is to kill it before you tag that mage. You can even send a T-bow shot at it as a last resort from the 3rd safe spot. If you unfortunately still haven't killed it, slap on Justiciar if you have it, tag the mage, and tank the ranger until you can get back over there and kill it. If you don't have Justy in this situation, you can still tank, but you can get unlucky. Make sure you leave Rigor on as it also provides defense. If you get a right side shield spawn, the mage will spawn right in front of you. Tag the mage immediately and wait on the inner safe spot until Zuk fires a shot with your pipe equipped. Your goal now is to kill that ranger as quickly as possible. Save your pipe specs until the ranger damages you to recover your health. If you get unlucky with damage taken from the ranger, keep in mind you can easily tick eat his attacks with brew doses. After the ranger dies, keep Mage Prey and Rigor on, ignoring the mage, and continue DPSing Zuk. Your goal is to get him to 600 HP as fast as possible. On average, you should be able to do this within a minute or so. After Zuk is at 600 HP, you can kill the Major, and optionally walk with the shield until you have restored run energy to full. This is really unnecessary with a T-bow, and I wouldn't recommend it unless you have a very low agility level. Continue DPSing Zuk until you get him to 480 HP, then tag Jad immediately before he hits your shield with a nasty hit. Turn your camera in an orientation so you can see Jad. I like to put Zuk behind my camera, facing the camera south. You can hit Jad from any safe spot, so don't forget that. Slam Jad with damage until his healers come out, then manually cast a blood barrage at them to tag them all. They always spawn on the close side of Jad, so you can almost always tag all 3 with 1 barrage. Continue to DPS Jad until he dies, then get right back on Zuk. This is when your timer comes into play. Get Zuk as close to 240 HP as you safely can. If he's below 310 health, your T-bow can start healers, so don't shoot him anymore until you are in the optimal spot. I like to send healers if I have at least a minute on the clock. If you have less than 1 minute to the next set spawn, I would try to wait the next set before healers and deal with them the same way. If you end up waiting a set, which I did here because I stupidly didn't start my timer, you don't have to kill the mage, just the ranger. You can leave Mage Prey up for the rest of the fight. Wait for the shield to hit either wall before sending healers. You need to send healers in the optimal spot so you can tag them all ASAP to avoid healing Zuk much. As it is about to move away from the wall, send a T-bow shot. If this doesn't start healers, send 1 more. If healers starts immediately, get pipe on and tag them all, praying Rigor and Redemption. If you don't manage to send healer after those 2 shots, wait until the wall hits the other side and try again. Do this until you have less than 1 minute, then wait the set. When you start healers, there is a pause after you tag one of them in which you cannot attack them because they are turning towards you. Tag the first one, then immediately tag the second one. If you have time here, hit the first one again, and then the second one. Then tag the 3rd and 4th healer. Healers would do massive damage to you. Move all the way to the end of the wall with the shield to avoid damage. Get aggressive and slam healers with DPS, staying with the shield while pipe walking. If at any point your HP drops below 50, you need to brew up. Try to brew when the shield hits the wall so you don't have to worry about moving as much. Make sure you continue hitting the healer nearest you even while you're brewing. A really common way I see people die is not getting aggressive with the healers, losing ticks, and just allowing them to live for far too long. Healers shred your HP, and they need to die. Make sure you keep sending pipe shots even as you brew. As soon as you've killed the healers, get back on Zuk and DPS him as much as possible, remembering to stay with the shield. If you have another set spawning, deal with them the same as before. Just remember you have to stay with that shield. You can leave the mage alive and just keep DPSing Zuk until he dies. In my run, I got another set to spawn right before I killed Zuk, and I actually had 2 mages up. If I didn't manage to kill Zuk after this, I would have just tagged the mage like I did here, and killed the ranger the same as the other sets, just with 2 mages attacking me with Mage Prey up. A successful Inferno will yield you that shiny Inferno cape. and your first completion will allow you to select the Inferno on Slayer tasks. A completion also yields a chance at the Nibbler pet. It's 1 out of 100 from a standard completion. If you do it on task, it's actually 1 out of 50, and it's another 1 out of 100 chance if you choose to sacrifice that cape. If you're grinding for the pet later, pets are 1 out of 50 off task with cape sacrifices, and 1 out of 43 on task with sacrifices. Inferno tasks are actually some of the best experience rates in the game for Slayer if you complete it relatively quickly. Zuk grants 100,000 Slayer XP himself, and each monster gives their own Slayer XP, netting you roughly 125,000 Slayer XP per task. Speedrunning Inferno on task is completely different from a regular run, and I would highly recommend giving them a try at some point after obtaining your first cape. The Inferno Speedrun Discord and Gear Discord link below have some great resources for doing these. I actually just recently got my first sub 60-minute run after some attempts. They're really a lot of fun. You also can now access the full TzTok-Jad challenge, which I have a guide for at the top right. This is truly difficult, but again, a lot of fun. And it yields a cool transmog for your Jad pet, should you have one. I'd highly recommend watching some full runs of Infernos to get ideas for ways to solve waves. I highly recommend 25X's Twisted Bow teaching stream. I rewatched this video repeatedly like a Bible before going for my first cape. Hi-Yo and Exact also have some great information as well. And that's it for the video. Leave a like if you liked it and or subscribe. Thanks guys.